Me building a relationship and having a relationship with the audience, sometimes by certain people, to me, it feels like they're treating it as I'm being rebellious, or I'm like, it's treated almost like it's a problem.
Well, would you look at that? I've been telling you guys for around a year now that Triple H is an egomaniac. And after Karrion Kross's release from WWE, I think it's safe to say, if you haven't known this already, Triple H is an egomaniac. As Karrion Kross references in the clip, yes, getting over naturally feels like an issue to talent because it is an issue for Triple H. Triple Fraud will never push you if you get over without his system. Or Triple H is not the one who's actually pushing you to get where you are, like a Cody Rhodes or a Rhea Ripley or a Gunther, etc., a Braun Breaker even now, etc. He will never push you. He's not going to push you, bro. Why do you think that LA Knight, Carmelo Hayes, Montez Ford, who's been way overdue for his push, etc., or Drew McIntyre even, look at the work that he did last year and where he's at now, and you tell me that those people are not getting pushed, but Cody Rhodes is a two-time WWE champion in the last year alone. Gunther is a two-time world champion in the last year alone. How is that possible while LA Knight and Carmelo Hayes win nothing? Can you please explain that to me? How is Karrion Kross, even though I think Karrion Kross is a jobber, I don't think he's that good in the ring. I think he's in some parts, he's pretty mid to even bad at points. But that's not what this is about. Karrion Kross, I have to give him respect. I have to be honest. You have to give him respect. He's just a man trying to further his career and trying to do the right thing. And he was able to naturally get over with a portion of the audience. Therefore, he should be rewarded. At some point, you have to give him a modicum of respect. There is zero reason why Big G, Grayson Waller now is a consistent show up or has consistent appearances on Raws while Karrion Kross is getting fired while selling merchandise, which again, the merch sales are declining over the last year, but that's not the point. The merch, he's selling merch, obviously he's getting over with a portion of the audience and he's barely getting featured, but Big G is getting featured. That's not acceptable, and everyone should already know that and agree with it. I'm not saying that Grayson Waller should get fired or anything, but you have to evaluate your talent. Guys like Drew McIntyre or LA Knight or a Carmelo Hayes or a Montez Ford should not be waddling around in catering or in the mid-card or undercard jobbing out, and while, guys like Braun Breaker are two-time Intercontinental Champions in the last year, he's spearing and beating down Roman Reigns in main event storylines. You know what I'm saying? You have situations where Seth Rollins is winning a world title for the second time in the last couple years. Gunther's a two-time world champ. Rhea Ripley gets an every single women's world title match because she's going to take back a title that she never lost, yeah. And then Cody Rhodes is a two-time WWE champion in the last year. It's very clear to me, if you get naturally over versus what Triple H wants to get over, you're not getting pushed. And obviously in this documentary, we're going to break it down. Karrion Kross brings up the fact that R-Truth told him, he said, you haven't won a main roster title yet, but you won the title from the people because they chose you. And I thought that was a pretty interesting line and an interesting quote, because quite frankly, obviously Karrion Kross is legitimately released and fired from the company. But at the end of the day, if we're being honest with ourselves, just like R-Truth, when I made the video on him getting fired, I would not be surprised if R-Truth does end up, if Karrion Kross does end up coming back. It just is what it is. And WWE and Triple H will mask it up as if it's a work, it's all part of the show. Does it feel like Mania season now? Have I been booking WWE into the ground for the last year? You know what I'm saying? It's absolutely embarrassing, man. And even if Karrion Kross gets brought back like Ron Killings, or R-Truth, at the end of the day, Triple H's ego is going to get in the way. He's going to be pissed off that he had to bend the knee to the fans and do something he didn't want to do. So after a month or two of Karrion Kross being back, be prepared for him and his wife to probably get booked like undercard jobbers who don't even get featured on the show. Just like R-Truth came back, was a third fiddle in the Cena and Punk feud, and then beat Dealer Black on SmackDown, disappeared for a few weeks, and then was playing the classic old comedy, goody two-shoes R-Truth. Yeah! What's up? What's up? What's up? You know what I'm saying? When he had all that momentum after Money in the Bank and could have done something special, and that is what Triple H gave him, because his ego is ruining this company. I've said this multiple times, but it is the fact, and we're seeing it in front of our face. Now, I will preface this, and I will be honest. You guys know how I feel about Karrion Kross. I have been saying on the record, I'm not going to sit here and lie to you guys. Yes, I've called him a jobber. Yes, I've said he's overrated. Yes, I've said he's bad to mid at best inside of the ring. And yes, I've said that as a storyteller and as a character worker, I haven't seen anything that would warrant him you know what I'm saying, being placed on the show on a mid-card or even an upper-card main event spot like some fans want, more than other guys that I'll reference in this video, some of them being like a Melo Hayes or a Knight or a Drew McIntyre, etc. However, just off of respect alone, I have to acknowledge that him getting fired is probably a little bit overdone. You get what I'm saying? Like, in all seriousness, I can see why he got released, let's be real. He hasn't done anything in his recent WWE run that would warrant, like, oh, we have to re-sign this guy immediately. It's not like that. It just sucks to see that as he was trying to get a, as he was starting to get over more and getting an improvement in his storylines and all that other stuff, he finally got released. And that's just the bottom line about it. I'm not going to sit here and cry and say that, oh, Karrion Kross should have never been cut. He should have never been released. I'm not a big Karrion Kross fan, and I don't really see a reason for this guy to be anything above maybe a mid-carder at best. But if that's the case and fans are really supporting this guy, we'll see how they react on Raw and on SmackDown and throughout these shows. But if that's the case and they really want him back, then he probably will be back, and I don't have a problem with that necessarily. And obviously, none of this stuff is personal. Now, it's personal between Triple H and WWE and Karrion Kross and those people, but I'm just giving you my take on the subject matter at hand, because I think that Triple H is an egomaniac, and this is absolutely ridiculous. But obviously, there's no personal bad blood here. I have no issues with Karrion Kross, the actual human being, and same with his wife. He seems like a pretty good man, and she seems like a pretty good woman. So I have no complaints with anything like that. I'm just talking about what's happening in the entertainment form that is WWE, which is rapidly dying and becoming worse and worse by the week. Some other important things to note about this Karrion Kross documentary is that he brings up how obviously he wanted to stay in WWE forever. He literally says that word for word in the documentary. He wanted to be there forever, and he really hopes to return, and he hoped to get re-signed, obviously. But apparently he had contract discussions with WWE back in January, and he said they weren't substantive, basically, and they were very disappointing. And obviously because of that, he didn't choose to re-sign at that moment or even get, a contract extension or anything like that, because he was disappointed with the way the contract talks went. He didn't feel like they were super genuine and super deserving of what he had been doing. And then obviously recently with the stuff he's done, he still couldn't get a new contract, so that shows you that WWE and their tune didn't really change very much. And then he also brings up as well, a point that Triple H has brought up in the past. I don't know if you guys remember earlier this year around the time of Mania 41 and the build up to it, Triple H literally would say that the internet isn't real. The fans should F off. You know what I'm saying? The fans on the internet aren't legit. But for some reason, every single show you see Triple H touting and putting up graphics, WWE puts up graphics, and Michael Cole's reading, this moment got 200 million views, man. Wow. 250 million views for this heel turn, man. Wow. Like, what are we talking about at this point, dude? How do internet views and social media isn't real, but then you're utilizing it to promote your shows and promote moments on your shows and then bragging about the viewership from it? But when Karrion Kross gets those viewerships on social media and he gets big posts on social media and he gets notoriety online, it doesn't count. He's told to ignore it. What? Karrion Kross said in the documentary he wants to stay in WWE forever, but obviously for now, he's done. And the documentary he made captures his final weeks and his final day, obviously, with his match versus Sami Zayn at SummerSlam last weekend, okay? So although, like I said, I do think Karrion Kross is a jobber, that's not the point. He naturally got support, and I have to respect it. I have to love it. I have to be proud of it. You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, when he voices his anger and his heavy frustration about being pissed off with, getting over and getting hype and selling merch and doing something unique, yet still being looked over and ignored by the company, I can understand and really feel for the man's frustration. It makes sense. You have to empathize with this for a second, because as Karrion Kross mentions in the documentary, he says that when he was getting the We Want Kross chants and he was selling merch, he had to ask, he found out that he was selling that merch from WWE fans on Twitter and reports on Twitter from wrestling news accounts. That's how he found out. No one at the company contacted him about it. No one told him about it. Karrion Kross had to find this out from the internet, and then he said he asked the actual WWE, saying the contacts he has at WWE, is this true? Am I selling this merch? And they said, we don't know. How do you not know whether someone is selling merch or not, but you can tell me if Jey Uso is selling Yeet shirts? You see what I'm saying? It's bias. It doesn't matter how over you are. It matters if Triple H wants you to be in that top spot, you're going to be there. If he doesn't want you in that top spot, you can be over for 15 years, and the best thing you'll get is maybe one United States Championship reign, or maybe an IC title reign if you're very lucky. And that's the facts. And Karrion Kross also brings up in the documentary how he literally says he was pissed off, because at the end of the day, he was getting over, and WWE and Triple H, obviously probably Triple H as well, was probably telling WWE, I mean, he didn't say this in the documentary, but he said, literally, WWE was telling him, ignore the We Want Kross chants, ignore the hype, just kind of dismiss it, you know what I'm saying, shun it away, because it doesn't matter, you know what I'm saying, like, what are you talking about? It doesn't make any sense. It's okay for Seth Rollins to go out there, and obviously Seth Rollins is way better than Karrion Kross. I understand that, but that's not the point. Just listen to what I'm saying. Seth Rollins goes out there. He's supposed to be playing a heel, and he plays it like a face, and no one says anything. He gets rewarded for the World Championship for the second time in the last 2 years. But if Karrion Kross manages to get support from a portion of the audience and actually goes out there and finally gets support after working so hard to do so, he gets told to ignore it and shun it away and dismiss it? So you get rewarded for not playing your character right, but then if someone else doesn't plays their character right, and still gets support, meaning that the fans are really behind them, it doesn't matter. It's picking and choosing what works and what doesn't. Jey Uso yeets and sells some merchandise, so he gets a world title. LA Knight says, yeah, wrestles good matches and actually cuts good promos and is super over and sells merchandise, and he gets nothing. It's picked and chosen. It's not about what we as fans think is the best and what we want as content and what the fans want as content and what's actually the best possible product, what's going to give you more viewership. It's about what Triple H wants, and that is the difference between an egomaniac and selfish booker who's in his own best interest versus someone who's actually booking for the fans, who actually wants them to not get priced out of arenas, to not get priced out of, buying PLEs and spending $30 a month on 4 match card PLEs. Someone who actually wants the fans to have the best possible content. That is why when Vince McMahon was in his prime, which his prime lasted decades, WWE was the best it ever was. You had superstars and legends you had many of them on every single roster from any of the years. You get what I'm saying? Obviously, in Vince's latter days, his booking got worse, and I will acknowledge that it was absolute garbage in his latter days. But the point is this: at the end of the day, Vince McMahon booked to try. He actually gave an earnest attempt to give you the best possible content, to entertain you, to make you laugh, to tell stories, give gravitas to stars, and develop talent. Even he had to bend the knee to Daniel Bryan to give him a WWE World Heavyweight Champion. He was a double champion for months. Are you kidding me? If Vince McMahon can put his ego away and give CM Punk a WWE Championship, he gave Daniel Bryan a WWE Championship. He swallowed his pride and did that and dealt with the backlash for it because that is what was best. That is the situation that we are in, whether that way we were in, when Vince McMahon was booking. That is why WWE under Vince McMahon was made it into the multi-billion-dollar industry that it is today. And now with Triple H, it's just continuing to get worse and worse month over month, week over week, show over show. Why do you think that millions of viewers have walked away from the product just this year alone, man? Alone. And you get stuff with Karrion Kross in this situation where basically the moral of the story of this documentary is that Triple H, no matter how much support he got and how much, appreciation from the fans he got, he never felt like he really had a fair shake because he brought up how Logan Paul was the one who pushed for him to be in and they have that moment at Mania 41 with AJ Styles and him inside of the match. And that's just a situation with it. There is no actual effort or actual, connectivity or any type of effort put into these actual pushes. And that is what ruins these pushes, man. It's as simple as that. You don't even get a push. There is no push to even talk about at this point. The fact that Karrion Kross was able to do what he did, and actually get over without being featured on TV at all, basically. Outside of that, he did that promo, obviously, on the Sam Roberts podcast. It was a work he announces in the documentary. But that's what he did. And then the reward for that is him getting fired. Do you understand how embarrassing that is? It's just, like, what else is there to say other than that? He brings up the main point that we have to discuss in this video, because all the other stuff is basically just, him doing sign-ups and meet and greets and the fans supporting him and all that stuff, and it all culminates in him getting over with a portion of the audience, and the reward now is him getting released. That's all it is. He literally said it's a problem getting over naturally because you do more than they expect you to do. And because you do more than they expect you to do, they is Triple H, by the way, because he does that, it becomes a problem. And that is exactly why Karrion Kross is now getting released. And they may bring him back, and they may try and, make up for their mistakes and all that other stuff. But the point is that at the end of the day, Triple H's ego is ruining WWE. You can't keep on pissing off fans and then telling fans to screw off after Mania 41. He literally told fans to F off if you didn't like it. But what kind of stuff is that? And then he's ruining potential stars. You have Roman Reigns, John Cena, CM Punk, and The Rock. Those are your top 4 guys. Roman Reigns is a part-timer who's probably, he might re-sign next year and do a bigger contract and show up more. John Cena, Jonathan Cena is actually going to retire in 3 or 4 months. CM Punk is going to retire probably within the next couple of years. And The Rock is a super part-timer who barely ever shows up. They're all part-timers. They they're on their way out, and because of this, you need to build new stars and have people in place for when they leave the company. But again, if you get over organically and Triple H isn't the one pushing you, you aren't gonna get pushed. So what are we supposed to do at this point? This man is literally single-handedly ruining this company. I don't want to hear about The Rock or Travis Scott or TKO or all this nonsense garbage at this point, man. It's just absolute just stupid stuff at this point, bro. I could go on about Triple H's ego and the way he books talent forever, but the bottom line is that if you took Carmelo Hayes, LA Knight, John Cena, you know what I'm saying, who was lied about, by the way, you know what I mean? Triple H literally sat there last week and said that John Cena picks all the stories. No, he doesn't. John Cena then later revealed, obviously, that the same way it's been for decades, WWE draws the cards and he plays them. He deals with the storylines that are given to him. He didn't want Lesnar to come back and do that moment, but Triple H wanted shock factor and shock moments, so he put Lesnar in there, and now we haven't seen Lesnar, and we likely won't see him until Clash in Paris. And John Cena's retirement run has been booked poorly by Triple H. The Rock wanted Cody to turn heel and Cena to topple him at Mania potentially, but that's not how it worked. He shot that idea down, and now look how Cena's heel turn turned out booked by Triple H. Look at what's happening with Karrion Kross to an extent. Look at Montez Ford. Look at Drew McIntyre, Roman Reigns, Austin Theory. Roman Reigns goes out there. He's the biggest star. He goes out to job out every week. Meanwhile, people like Cody Rhodes, Rhea Ripley, Gunther, Rollins, Braun Breaker, Jacob Fatu, etc. get booked like legends. It is embarrassing, man. To summarize it all, if I give you the group of people who are, have talents and are star level people, but get booked like jobbers or get booked like mid-carders at best, like a Carmelo Hayes, LA Knight, Montez Ford, Drew McIntyre, Roman Reigns, Austin Theory, etc., and then compare that to the group of Gunther, Cody Rhodes, Seth Rollins, Braun Breaker, and Jacob Fatu, Sol Sikoa, Rhea Ripley, etc., you know that the first group with Melo, Knight, and Roman, etc. are much better, but the second group with Gunther and Cody and Rollins and Rhea Ripley are the ones that get booked as if they're better, and that's the simple truth about the matter. There's no other way to go about it. Karrion Kross did his job, and for that, he got rewarded with being fired. Do I agree with it? Not necessarily, but as I said before, I can kind of see why it happened, but still, just to see the way it played out, it does suck to see for Karrion Kross. But at the end of the day, we'll just have to monitor the situation and see what happens, because I'm sure there will be ongoing We Want Kross chants and stuff happening throughout the week. Other news will drop, or maybe it's a work and we actually got worked, who knows. But at the end of the day, this is where the current state of the Karrion Kross situation is today. Let me know what you guys think about it in the comment section below, and as always, I thank you guys for watching. I'll see you later tonight for the Monday Night Raw review, and I thank you guys for watching again, I guess. Have a phenomenal day. Peace out, and one love.